Siri. That's a good one. Hey everyone, thank you very much for attending our open house with KANDAO. I'm glad to have you guys here. Very excited to have exploration of the next what if. Radiant, we always look at what is the next what if, and we're always exploring it. And it's good to have free thinkers like you guys every day exploring what's next. So before I start, I actually want to thank some of the best collaborators I've ever worked with in my life, people that give me jet fuel every single day, that I jump out of bed, come to work, and they make all of our everything possible for us. It's every one of our employees. Without them, I'd just be standing here and telling you guys jokes. I wouldn't have anything. So without their help, none of this would be possible. We just wrapped NAB, and the entire crew jumped in the car late last night. We set everything up for you guys so that we can explore the next what if. Also, I'd like to thank our partners, KANDAO and their team, especially Bluetooth. We also want to thank one of our oldest collaborators. We work with OVD, who's got one of the most powerful VTR systems. We've used them on all the big major films that we've done, all the film and television production. It is one of the most powerful VTR systems, and they just made a major announcement. They're supporting 360. They're camera agnostic. They can do real-time live comping. They can do playback onto headsets, and they can stream it so that the executive producer can watch it in another state. But you should definitely check out their solutions, and they have some amazing tech, and they came here all the way from Spain to share their technology with us. And one of our favorite collaborators that we work with a lot is Magnus from Voices. His solutions, yes. He's always behind the curtain, and he's the one that makes a lot of these amazing streaming technology work for us. In the past, all we've done is we route our audiences in the environment with no interactivity. And I think that's the most important thing, that your audiences can now interact. They can see live 2D elements. They could see social media popping in. They could see telemetrics. And we don't know what else, which is exciting. All the things that Magnus works on is definitely bleeding edge. And he is constantly developing new solutions and new tool sets. And we're constantly breaking them and making it move forward with our collaborators. One of the other collaborators that couldn't be here with us today is Visby. Visby assisted Radiant Images to develop our light field camera system, which we call Meridian. And Meridian is a 3-foot by 4-foot panel. And in these panels, you can have 24 Sony RXOs. These are the same cameras that can go into Best Buys and buy. And Sony shipped us 100 cameras. And this was on March 16th, about 3.5 weeks ago. And it took us about 2.5 days to just upload and update the firmware into the cameras. But with our help with our engineer, Kurt Lin, and our entire Radiant team, we built a light field rig system, and we also have some content to show you. So it's really exciting to see that now your audiences can explore more than just the screen. They can go through with screens. They can interact with their subject matters. And that is one of the most powerful sensories, that you're connected to your subject matter. And those are the things that we want to really push forward on. So we want to thank all of our partners. Thank you. So normally, this is where we would put our reel up, and we would showcase all the things we've done in past years. This year, I'm not going to play any reel. This year, I'd rather talk to you about what's important for us, not what we've done, what we care about as a company, things that really get us energized, things that gives us hope. And it's not tech, it's none of that. It is free thinking. It's about exploring the next what ifs. And we had 21 super hungry-minded, the most curious people I've ever experienced march in here yesterday as a surprise visitors, and they're our next door neighbors. Our next door neighbors, the new Los Feliz Arts Academy, and it was a bunch of 5-year-olds. Turn off the lights, yeah. Here's a reel. Here's a Instagram post from the kindergarten teacher. Can you play the audio? Okay, Caesar's telling them.
So if you guys watch, you can see everything around you. This is virtual reality. Okay? See this truck? So that's the driver.
By the way, that footage is one of our constant collaborators, Joseph Robbins, who was Radiant's 3rd employee. And he's now working at Red Bull, creating amazing content and always pushing the boundaries. And what I'm really excited about is these minds, we learn from them. They haven't been told you can't. They haven't been beaten down, telling that there's no way you can do this, that the only path is you have to monetize things. What if everything in life wasn't about monetization? What if there were no limitations? What if everything was possible like when we were kids? We never dreamt that we couldn't do things. I think they get it more than we do. And we think that they're too young. They don't understand the ways of life. But I think it's actually reversed. I think we could learn a lot from this generation. Okay, let's give them a big hand of applause. And it's important for us to always look at the what if. You know, what if we could gather around and share stories with each other? What if we can take those stories now and preserve them with pictures, drawings on caves and walls and canvases? What if we can take those now and take them and make them in words, written words, books that could be shared down from generation to generation? What if we could take them and make them into plays that could be reacted, and we could tell the stories for many, many generations? What if we could record the sound of babies crying, people laughing, human atrocities? What if we can record all that? And what if we can put moving images, take stills and make them moving images, and marry sound to it, and tell our stories even deeper? What if we can make everything in color now? Put vivid color on everything we capture. Now, what if we can broadcast this? For around the world, people anywhere could see this. What if we could make it in 3D, stereoscopic? So now we give a window of depth to people to explore in. Now, what if we can take, everyone is a content creator. Everyone has a voice. Everyone matters. Our voices matter. It breaks barriers. It breaks borders. It moves ideas. What if we can all do that? And now what if we can have a 360 camera, position it, show our environments, have someone be in our living room, be in our palaces, be in our huts? What if we can do all that? Now what if we could break the fourth wall? What if we could do that? What if your audience could walk in this space, walk around things, explore, see happenstance? But the most important question is, what if we never ask questions? What if we just stopped? What if we didn't do anything? What if we believed that there's no monetization in it? And we listen to everyone else that says, why do this? Those kids don't ask those questions. They ask deeper questions. And I think that's really important for us to do. And today, I'm so proud and fortunate to have a panel that believes in the same spirit as we do. We carefully selected this panel because everyone in this panel breaks stereotypes, breaks all of the, you can't do this, and they push boundaries forward. And it's important because they all come at it with similar philosophies, but different approaches. I'd like to introduce the panel and have him come down. Thank you. Ty, sorry, he's texting and blocking. Ty Evans is, please have thank you. Good seeing you. Thank you. So Ty Evans has been, absolutely, yeah. So Ty Evans is, I was a little kid, I was inspired by Ty Evans. I'm just kidding. Now, Ty Evans is one of the most experimental filmmakers. He works in all mediums. If you give him a cell phone, if you give him a book, if you give him a motion picture camera, he will create content that will move deeply. He will have impact. And what he's done in 360 is remarkable because he's using it as a transition inside stories inside 2D. So he's using something that we would normally use in 360 in his movies in a very powerful way. I'm very happy to have Ty here with us. I also like to introduce Rodrigo and Daniela. So Rodrigo is a, thank you. Rodrigo, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. Oops. So both Rodrigo and Daniela, they work on really big motion pictures. They actually just did a full-length feature film with HTC that's coming out hopefully soon. But yeah, we don't want to put pressure on them, but they have broken almost every boundary that I've ever experienced. Every time I get a call from them, it's always something very extraordinary. They don't work in the ordinary. They're always pushing the extraordinary, and it's really incredible to be able to have them on our panel. I think we can learn a lot from them because they use a lot of amazing methods, not just 360. How do we move our audiences inside and out? How do we see the world from outside in? And there's a lot of methods that they've used also with KANDAO and other technology that we're exploring the things that are coming in the future. And another collaborator, our Radiant's 8th employee, is Scott Connolly, and a constant collaborator. Scott's with a company called Astronauts Guild, and we've done some of the most challenging productions together. We've gone to Japan, done 3D. We've done one of the world's largest 360 exhibitions for the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, for the Falcon Stadium, and it's massive 360 projection. So those are the kind of worlds that we like to celebrate with Scott, because he captures worlds much bigger than life, and he wants to display it for the masses. And he also works on headsets as well. We feel that there's two different methods. The headset is more like a book. You read it by yourself, you go deep in those stories. And then there's a shared experience like we have now. We're able to project this, a massive amount of people could see it and share it together. So Scott and most of the team here works on both, where it's a shared experience as well as a personal experience. And I'd like to introduce Howie as well, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. So Hugh has been an amazing collaborator as well. He works mostly on YouTube and makes a democratization. He's able to create extremely large files. So you're able to do 8K depth mapping. He experiments on all the what ifs, and he makes it all his learnings available to other content creators. He has a YouTube channel. What is the YouTube channel?
It's called Creator Up. It's 100% free. You can learn everything just on YouTube.
Yeah, I watch it all the time. So we've been looking at his stuff and learning from. So I wanted to make sure we all had an opportunity to be able to share his wisdom and his experiences and his mistakes and his up and downs, and we all learn from mistakes better. And there's my friend Tariq. Everyone, good to see you, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Let's get you closer here. So Tariq and I have been collaborating for years. Tariq works on mostly social cause documentaries, mostly social cause human experiences, and normally I get calls from him at 5 in the morning saying, hey, we're going to go around Peru and shoot a documentary now, and we need to do it immediately. So he works also in the commercial applications too. You guys at Riot have also moved into commercial, but that's for them to go back to their roots, which is more social causes, things that really make a difference in the world, and bringing our audiences into other parts of the world that we don't have opportunity to be in. So I'm really happy to have this amazing panel together. Thank you. So now I'd like to introduce Dan Chen, who's a CEO, co-founder of KANDAO. So Dan's come here from China, and he wants to share some of their latest solutions with 360, as well as the next what if, which is depth mapping. And for those who don't know anything about depth mapping, including me, you're gonna learn a lot. We're all learning a lot. I'll tell you, what we're embarking on is like when we first discovered electricity. It's truly that. They had no idea we can have driving cars, put man on in the moon, have a microwave oven. All these things happened because we kept pushing it forward. And we don't know what this is quite yet either. We're all exploring. And all the curiosities, just like those kids had, we all share. So I'd like to introduce Dan, and thank you very much. He's gonna tell us a little bit more about his company and his solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe I can use the computer here, because I kind of prepare a slide for 10 hours, and Michael told me that the artist talk is much more interesting than mine, so let me keep short. So I will actually just give a very quick overview of the presentation I have here, and I'm really very honored to see so many of you coming here. KANDAO is a very new company. We just got started in 2016, January. And then most of you know KANDAO through our camera. And the cool cam is still kind of not really available. We are still working on it, but it has already got a lot of awards. And the Obsidian has been put into content creators' hands for, I think, nearly 1 year, maybe a little less than that. And we actually learn a lot from content creator, artists, director, from you guys. And here today, this is kind of a bit technical, and I kind of want to share with you guys our ideas about from panoramic traditional 2D stitching to 6-stop stitching or depth mapping. So actually, yesterday, we just got news from Edison Awards that the Cool can also win a silver award. So I share the news here with you guys here. I don't know how many of you here have been working with 360 video. So I will just give a very, very brief kind of and walk through it. In the most simple form, you have two lenses sticking together back to back. So one is taking the picture of the front, the other is taking the picture of the back. So essentially, you have two fisheye image, and then you kind of warp it, kind of transform it into an equal rectangular sphere. So you are showing the lenses from the back and the lenses from the front. And the gray area here is kind of the overlapping area. This is where the stitch happening. So we kind of stitch the two images together so you can get a 360 video or photo. And for the technical term like equal rectangular, just think of the globe, the map. So it kind of the whole globe into a 2D sphere. So this is the way we. And in order to do the stitching, some of the technique called feature matching is needed. It actually need to find which point in one picture correspondent to which pixel in the other. Based on that, you can actually kind of align them together and then stitch them together. The traditional approach. But there is a problem called parallax. This is the effect that gives us stereoscopic or 3D images. but it will also cause problem that you cannot get perfect stitch if you just use those feature matching technique. For example, point A will see that the object, the star is on the blue background, and point B, viewpoint B will see that the object is on the red background. So this will actually cause problems for stitching. So this is why the industry, in the very beginning, spent a lot of time kind of cleaning up the stitch line for object near and far away. This is actually a demo. On the left, it is using traditional feature matching way of stitching. So you will see that when we get the background correct, the girl here will kind of have quite a lot of stitching line. So look at her face, it kind of cut because of the parallels issue. So from the very beginning, we think that we should do it in a more fundamental way. We want to deal, the stitching should be done using a depth-aware way. So let me switch to another place. This is actually showing that 6 lenses, the picture taken from 6 lenses and warped to equal rectangular distance, equal rectangular projection. You will see that originally, because the tolerance of manufacturing, so actually the lens will kind of tilt a little bit, it will kind of being offset a little bit. So it is very important to do kind of calibration. This one is the picture that is being calibrated. You will see that the distant object is kind of being stay fixed onto the on the screen, and only the near distant object kind of move. So if you got the, this is a bad example, that if you do not get the calibration very, very correct, you will see that far away distance kind of tweaks, people kind of tweaks, the parallels is totally wrong. You will, if you put it onto a goal, you will see that you will get fatigue fairly soon. And if you get it right, you will see that this is, the far away distance is kind of, the far away object is kind of constant, they do not move too much, and the object that is here have larger parallels, though they move a lot. So from the very beginning, we kind of do the stitching in a depth-aware way. So at first, we kind of estimate the depth from it, and then we generate the viewpoint using the depth information from that. So because of this technique, we have been able to stitch, provide a seamless stitching. So this is what we are talking about. The upper is the ordinary RGB video frame. The lower is the depth data we generated from the camera. The whiter it is, it means that it is more near the camera, and the black shade means that it is far away. And use this kind of information, we actually can do something very easily. This is actually the effect we intended for the cool cam, but here we can interpret different viewpoint. We can easily add a virtual object. We can know where the ground is, and they will have a correct occlusion. You can add a little paper airplanes running through our engineer. So this is the work done by engineer, so cannot compare to what the content creator will show later. But anyway, give you an idea. And we also, actually we use the depth match to do a red lighting. Actually, this is all virtual lighting. The white point that is moving around is actually a virtual light source. And the illumination and the shadow are all generated. So this is what we can do after we get the depth map. We have the depth map, we can calculate the surface normal, and we can add this kind of virtual effect to it. And I believe that later people on the panel will show much better, much production-ready example of this. And actually, in the moment, the 360 photo is something like on the upper side of this slide. You just kind of wrap around kind of image around we have, but you cannot actually walk around. And I think the lower part of it is what we are looking forward to. we really want our viewer to be able to move inside an environment, just that standing still in one place and just rotate their head. So it's actually not the music from here. Is it here? No. So this is actually generated using our camera for one single shot. We kind of interpret the left, right, up, down, forwards and backwards movement from it, because we now have the depth information. From this point, actually, it will allow you to kind of moving, have a little bit of freedom, kind of working inside, kind of moving in the environment. This is kind of not possible in the past if you just use standard 360 or use a stereoscopic 3D. This is up-down movement, left-right movement. And we also, because we have the depth map, we actually can kind of use it to create a point cloud. This is also from just one single frame. So you can actually kind of move inside the scene. But because it is just from one single frame, so you can actually see a lot of area that is kind of being occluded from the viewpoint of the camera. So in the future, actually, we are trying to fuse the data from actually 2, 3, or more cameras together, so you will get rid of the occlusion. This is actually a very little demo of what we have been able to achieve at the moment. This one is actually taken by one camera, but in 4 different positions. And then we kind of fuse the data together to create these little 3D models of the room. And we are hoping to do it in video. At the moment, we just show it in a still picture, but it should work in video. So we are working towards that. So I think this is the most part of our presentation. And I think the people on the panel will talk more about that. So I have still some more slides about the product itself, but maybe I think we can give more time to the people on the panel, and we can try the product later on the hand-on session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much. So the plan is to have a tech session on display here, so you guys can get more hands-on with all the KANDAO solutions. And the Radiant team will also assist you guys with any questions after they've gone. But if you guys want to come back and keep experimenting with it and see what else we can do with this, you guys are always welcome. So I know we have a compressed timeline today. We had a little late start because there was I believe there was an accident on the freeway. So I'd like to start the panel, and I'd like to start it with Tarek, my good friend here. So you have another mic? Oh, great.
Oh, hey, how's
Welcome,
it going, guys?
So Tarek, tell us why you guys decided to work in 360. I know your background is mostly documentaries and social causes documentaries. Why bring 360?
So us at Riot and our founders, they all started working in a humanitarian space with lots of NGOs and things all over the world, and they were seeing that the way the media was covering these stories was being covered in a way to kind of, you know, as we see, like kind of clickbait now, to get views, not to really tell the stories of these people. And so they started making documentaries in refugee camps and places like that to kind of tell these people's real stories. And someone came to one of our founders, David Darg, when he was about to head to Nepal with Operation Blessing, and was like, hey, here's like a bunch of GoPros around a ball, and you press them all at the same time, and like we can make it into a 360 image. And so he's like, wait, what's going on? And took it out there, was playing around with it, and came back, and the footage that he came back with, when we were all watching it, we were just taken back. This is, 2015, I want to say. And we went to Mountain Film that year with one of our documentaries, and a Samsung headset, and we're showing these images to people on the street. And when the headset comes off, there's tears in their eyes, and we're saying, wow, like we're holding something in our hands, a technology that people don't really know about, aren't familiar with, but that like is really taking it to the next level for people to experience these things that we kind of hold dear to ourselves, and can maybe use this to tell stories that people hadn't seen before, put them in places that they hadn't been. I say a lot, what about the state of our country now, and the opinions of people. There's people that don't even leave their homes, never leave their hometowns ever, and if they can go and experience something in the eyes of somebody that they've never met before, maybe that gives them a little context to like how they approach the world and how they approach ideas. So that's kind of how we got into it. From there, we, I guess, caught the bug, as you could say, and ran with it as fast and as far as we could go. Got as many cameras as we could and sent them to every corner of the world as we could, with as many people that were learning the technology at the same time as everybody else. So we kind of trial by fire, and ended up using techniques and utilizing techniques and technologies, thanks to you guys, every time, and everybody else, and our whole team working around the clock, literally living on the floor of our office for years, waking up, eating, and sleeping with 360 VR technology. So that's kind of how we got started with it. As far as us and KANDAO and this project with Laird Hamilton, it was a production.
By the way, just a quick thing.
Go ahead.
The Laird Hamilton project that we were involved in, Take to a Wave, that one just got nominated for an Emmy,
Yeah,
as well
whoa.
as it won the Lumiere Award. It's winning a lot of awards. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch it, it's really, really amazing. Our amazing partner here,
Yeah, Lauder.
Lauder,
There he is.
he pulled off a miracle for us. I got the call from Turk on Sunday night. I think it was like 6 in the morning or something. Yeah.
So we got this project brought to us by a partner months before, and started the whole production design and playing around with storylines and narratives and things, and how I was going to shoot it. And after we're right there, all of a sudden the money, like, okay, now let's find the money for this thing and like how we're going to do it, and then it just gets shelved, and we're just like, wind out of the sails, all that. We've probably all gone through multiple times at least. And so I want to say 6 months later, I'm sitting there and I'm about to go shoot FYF for Samsung, and the whole thing, and get ready for that. And I get a call. There's 3 major swells about to hit Peru. Laird Hamilton's going to be there, and he says it's cool if we shoot it. Like, let's go. And I think that was like a Thursday night, and I think I called you Thursday night, maybe Friday, and the swell was hitting Tuesday. And so I had 24 hours of shooting and a production to put together over the weekend, and we did it. I called Michael, and I was like, I need frame rate, I need dynamic range, I need all these things, and we were going to go with the jaunt, and then we talked to Lauder, and Lauder's like, oh, you want to get a helicopter down there too? Because we're not going to be able to lift that thing the way that you want to lift it for how long. This wave, by the way, is at the furthest point where they can catch it, 4 miles from the shore. It's a 4-mile long wave. Kilometers from shore, 2.5 miles from the point in, and we had to lift, at that point, a 50-pound rig that far, it probably wasn't going to happen. And so he's like, hey, KANDAO just came with this camera. I had a couple of production guys on my side like, oh, cool, and another experimental technology from Michael Mansouri. That, like, great. Does it work? And I'm like, he says it works, it works. And so I came in here for a couple hours and was playing around with the weight. Lauder's like, dude, how much does it weigh? Like, what can we do? The wind down there is insane. But when we had, the power source that runs off Canon batteries, it was like everyone that's ever, shot, I think, in their lives probably has a few Canon batteries in their junk drawer at home. And so we had every Canon battery we could, and put it together in a way where we were able to utilizing KANDAO's functionality of being able to live monitor and change all my settings on the fly, because we're going from foggy in the morning to direct sunlight hours later. High frame rate for the wind.
Frame rates you did were 120, right?
We were shooting at we shot 60 and 120, depending on the shot. We had Lauder's guys flying, because another thing with this 360 is trying not to make the people that are watching it throw up or fall over, and so it took a lot of expertise in the aerial department as well, trying to get those lines and those strafing shots. But for what we had and the time we had to do it with, and thanks to the partners and everyone involved, we were able to come out with something that was really fun and beautiful and tell a really fun story.
So you've actually seen a lot of improvements. I mean, he's been part of the pioneer team. There's a huge group of us here that I recognize that are all part of the cutting edge, bleeding edge technology back in 2015, where none of these solutions were available. We would have to like strap cameras together and make a lot of mistakes, and in those process, go back and shoot it again and do it right, and then make more mistakes and move forward. Tell me, would this been possible? Last minute call like that, back in 2015, 2016, or early 2017?
No, I don't think we would have had enough hands to press record on the GoPros fast enough.
Yeah. Or the batteries would have died out.
or the drones, or be able to 3D print mounts or whatever we were doing back then.
So as a filmmaker, what do you think has been one of the biggest improvements? Or, I always say that there might be limitations in technology, but there should never be limitations in our imaginations. We should be able to dream, do things endlessly, right? So what are some of the things that technology has been able to actually let you do even more without limitations?
Well, I mean, I think you hear it a lot from traditional filmmakers where they're like, oh, 360, it's not really like filmmaking because you just press a button and go, because you can't, pull focus, or you can't, you're not pulling ISO on individual cameras. But now we are. We're really utilizing the traditional filmmaking techniques with this new technology to kind of, put us all in the moment and the place, and create those really beautiful pictures that we all like to see. And that's kind of, I think, what drives us.
And I think for you, especially your company, because you guys are more like a news organization, you guys have a much faster turnaround, much tighter budgets, much tighter everything. Everything is just a lot more pressing in time and budgets. Tell us about post-production. How has that been a major enabler for you guys?
I mean, I wish I had some of our post team here, but they're probably in the office stitching things right now. But yeah, post has been heavy. I mean, last year we did, I did 26 shorts in 26 weeks for Facebook. We did the same exact time we did 6, like a piece a month, one 2-part piece a month for Google. Meanwhile, we were doing the turnaround with Hulu. So yeah, so post-production is obviously, it's probably like the hub of all of this. We can send anybody out, but unless you have the team that can put it all together, and it's shot in a way. I mean, like most of our post team shoots with us as well, because you need to have that in mind when you're shooting. But you can't just go fix it in post most of the time. But yeah, so post-production is huge for us. Depth mapping is something that we've been playing with a lot, so to see it come out with KANDAO is going to be really useful. I think after I took the Obsidian out for layered, it kind of became a staple around our office because of the workflow. I know we went and shot the Oath office tours. Oath is like a Verizon media brand that we became a part of, and we shot the 360 office tours at every single office around the world that they have, and we're able to turn those around. I think 14 episodes within a month as well. Yeah, so there's a lot of advantages compared to the old way to now with the technologies that are coming out to what we can do.
Great. All right, let's move on to Ty now. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you. We'll have an opportunity for more Q&As later, but I just want to move it forward. So Ty Evans has been one of the most experimental filmmakers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. like I said earlier, if you give them an iPhone, you give them a, yeah. And we'll play his reel right now, but if you give him an iPhone, you give him a book, you give him anything, he'll create. And he'll come back with amazing, breathtaking images. So I'd like to play his reel from, is this from
So this is from our film, The Flat Earth,
wait, Earth is flat? I mean, it's not flat?
as far as I know.
Oh my God, I thought it was round. I mean, I thought it was flat. I didn't know that.
But
This is amazing.
My background is I got my start in filmmaking from making skateboarding films, and from there learned everything else. I mean, I've been making almost 30 skateboarding films over the course of almost 30 years. That was my film school, and from there I learned filmmaking. This last film I made, it was fully self-funded. Usually we get sponsors to come on and pay for the films. I was like, oh, I want to do one on my own. So over the last year and a half, we traveled around the world, and I wanted some sort of theme or just something to kind of carry the whole film. If you guys have ever seen a skateboarding film, it's action with music. You know, there's the storyline side of skate films, but then this one's more of like a core skate film. And I wanted some sort of something new to carry the film, and I talked to you, and I was like, I want to do something outside of the box. And right around that time, maybe in 2014, I heard you talking about like a ball with a bunch of GoPros. I know that very well. We did a job for Mountain Dew. I think it was 2013 or 14, and it was like a 3D printed case with a bunch of GoPros in it, and you had to use like a clicker to sync them. And
Oh, we all remember those.
it worked, but it was very challenging, and that was my first experience. And I had the rig on like a big pole, and I was skateboarding with the pole, and if you turn back, my arm's missing, but then it's like I'm magically behind it. And it was a great experience to dive into it. And so I knew years later, I was like, I want to do something like that, but you know, how can I use it in a film and incorporate it? And I knew I was shooting everything in a traditional 16:9 world, and I was like, how can we incorporate that into that world? And you're like, well, come take a look, I'll show you what we got. And my whole thing was like, I want something I can just turn on and go, something that's fast. And you're like, oh, I have the perfect camera for you, it's the Obsidian, come check it out. And so I came by here, you gave me the crash course, and then I jumped on a flight and I went out to Barcelona for 5 weeks, I believe. And the one thing is I did not check which cards to use, and I was using the wrong cards for like the first couple days. And I went to check my footage, and I was like, oh, some of the cameras didn't record. You connected me, and I think Scott connected me with Dan. Where's Dan at? And that was the first thing, right? You're like, what cards are you using? And I think he got me on the right track, and after that I was off to the races. And we shot out there for like 5 weeks. I came back, Scott came by my house, gave me a crash course on workflow and how to get everything stitched together. And I had these 360 images, but I didn't know what to do with them. I was like, how can we use this? And at that point, there was, I think GoPro had the plugin, because my whole deal is I love editing in Premiere to the music and trying to sync things fast and going to After Effects and everything else. I was like, I want to do something actually in the Premiere timeline, how I normally edit. And I was really lucky to discover Metal through Scott. And they had a new plugin coming out called Mantra, which wasn't out at that point. And I reached out to Nancy, the CEO of Metal, and she sent me an early beta release of Metal Mantra. And Mantra gave me the ability of all these ideas I had in my head of what I could do with these 360 stuff and how to use it in a 16:9 world. That was kind of the missing link. And yeah, I was off to the races and used that as kind of the glue that held the whole film together.
So the film is released already? It just came
It
out,
is.
right?
It's available on all the digital platforms. It's called The Flat Earth. And there's also a 45-minute behind-the-scenes section that comes with the film that talks about all the technology, the camera systems, and everything we did.
So self-funded, everything.
Everything. I'm broke.
Self-distributed,
Yeah.
Ah.
Please buy the film.
You can always stay with me anytime.
Thank you.
Let's play it.
So this is the opening sequence of the film. Thank you.
I'm just going to sit down for this one. You blew me away again. You always do. One more hand of applause for him.
Well, so I don't really consider myself a post guy at all. I mean, Scott will tell you I definitely don't like computers, but it's interesting. I think it's one aesthetic, whether you're picking a new camera or something like that effect-wise to get across your vision. I think it's kind of cool seeing the two worlds starting to merge now.
What's interesting is that, how did you even know you're going to create those images? Like, did you have any idea that you're going to do this, or it just was a discovery?
I mean, I understood the concept of being able to capture all this, and like I said, I did another 360 project back in 2013. So I understood the concept of capturing it all and what you could do with the goggles. But I was like, how could you do that in a normal 16:9 world? And you'll see now, like GoPro has their Fusion, and they're really promoting overcapture, which is basically that concept. But when I started on this, I'd never even heard of overcapture or the Fusion or any of that stuff. So now it's a little bit more common. But back then it was exciting. Like, oh, I'm sure other people have done it at that point. I just hadn't really dove that deep into it. But I was like, okay, it felt like something new and exciting and different.
So what did you find most challenging in 360 in the past? Because you were early pioneer. I mean, you did this.
The post for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Obsidian's great if you get the right cards.
Yeah.
Put it in, turn it on, you're off to the races. The post side of things a little challenging. They have great stitching software, but working through stitching everything and then getting in the computer and getting it to do that and setting a lot of keyframes and testing and workflow. That was definitely a challenge. But like I said, Scott really helped me out, and then Ben Bernard, he helped me out as well, and very thankful to lean on my friends.
So on the post side, can you walk us through, like, how did you do the post?
Sure. So we
these
shot it,
cameras?
and then there was all the different cards. You stitch it using their software, and then when you stitch it, you have the option to do the size of your stitch. I believe we did 8K stitches or 4K stitches for some of them, and then once you have that, you can bring that into your software. And we used Adobe Premiere and bring that in, and I had I think an 8K stitch in a 4K timeline. And then I used different plugins. I mean, you can use any sort of effect you want on that point, but I was really leaning on Mantra from Metal because it had the capabilities of changing your X, Y, and Z axis, all sorts of different effects. And so that's how I knew I could do some of that stuff. And I just sat there and was like, okay, this is what this does, and just kind of trial and error going through all the different effects. And then, yeah, mastered out my film 4K UHD.
And what are you most excited about of the next possibilities, the things that we could do, and what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's pretty obvious, like with the depth matte stuff, and even between like what's moving forward with like Lytro and everything else, we're gonna be able to capture 360 and move that camera inside of that environment way more than what we're doing right now. Over the next amount of years, it's gonna be insane. That, and I also think there's the goggle world, which is, for me, I still feel like I see pixels, but I know that those are going to start going away as that resolution gets bigger. But I'm really excited about the dome stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, at the point where we can have those inside of our houses, or even like large scale domes we can all go to, I think that is really going to see where some of this stuff is going to accelerate.
So what's exciting is the content that you captured, the 360, it's actually getting projected onto big screens.
Yeah, amazing.
I know, it's crazy.
That's nuts. It's nuts. And how small the systems are insane to me.
And then as far as you mounted these on skateboards, you mounted them on...
We tried a bunch of different stuff, but a lot of those shots was just this type of setup.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you had it on
and
drone, remember? You had it on a drone too.
I tried a couple of drone things,
Okay.
but those shots were just this traditional right here. And the one thing I did do, once it was stitched, I would go into Photoshop and mask out and make a plate. And just paint everything out and then put that back in there, and then have to mask certain things if people went over the shadow or things like that. So that actually was the most painstaking part of the process.
Good. Thank God we had Scott.
Yeah.
So next panel I want to introduce is our friends Danielle and Rodrigo. They're both work for a company called Panorama, and they create really amazing cinematic VR experiences, full feature-length projects. Let's play some of their content, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your company, Rodrigo, before we hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, first of all, thanks for everything, Michael. You've been a very important part on our journey. I moved to US 3 years ago as a VR director from Brazil. I've been working in the industry since 2010, mostly as geo-referenced guy, like doing GIS stuff, kind of sort of early days of Google Maps and Google Street View applications. And then obviously I figured out, okay, if I can do photos, I can do video with this. So I start to, direct music clips for friends. And then I said, okay, I think it's possible to jump into more creative stuff. And then I direct a live event in VR, 2010. So we broadcast live 2K.
Wait,
That
when did
time-
you say you did live?
Yeah, 2010.
2010.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know, sounds
You're embarrassing
bizarre.
all of us here.
Yeah, but it was only 2K.
Oh, guys, just 2K 2010.
But it was so fun because I had this sort of a country music show in the country part of Brazil. So it's like I said, like nobody gonna watch it. And funny enough, we had 12,000 people watching live. And yesterday, I just by curious, I watched Coachella on YouTube VR, and it was 900 of us. So I was like, wow, I think there's still like a long way to, to go. But anyway, we started with, being more and more creative. Since I did a lot of branded content, I direct films, I would say for pretty much every big company in the world that I would like to work with. And then I got the point that few of us feel like, okay, I'm done with it. I can't do branded content anymore. I need more creative freedom, and I was invited to direct a film called Jesus VR, The Story of Christ. My company was the production company behind the film, and we did. Unfortunately, I didn't know Michael at that time would save me a lot of time, but we create a rig out of a Sony 7R Mark II, and as some of you could imagine, was a pain. Not only to handle the cameras, handle the stitch, handle the, oh my God, synchronization, stabilization, and have no tools at all to do the work. It was very painful, but at the same time, we learned a lot from our mistakes, and we launched the film, work in progress of the film in Venice Film Festival, and that was something that I'm very proud of, because after that, the Venice Film Festival director came to us and said, I think next year we're going to have a competition. So, and that's it. Now Venice Film Festival was the first film festival in the world which handles a competition for VR creators. And then in 2016, I moved with my family, 4 kids, wife, to US to pursue the stream of create original content for VR. I met Danilo about 2015 when I was in Digital Hollywood, a panel, and I said, man, we should work together. He was in a very different area, like games in VR, and I said, yeah, there's definitely some kind of a synergy between what we're doing, and I'm very glad that we, in 2016, start to explore these possibilities. And then last year, we signed a contract with HTC to make a full feature film in VR. The name is 7 Miracles. It's about the 7 miracles of Jesus based on the book of John. And then when I signed the contract, I called Michael, said, listen, we have a job. We have a work to do, because I would like to, again, kind of push the boundaries of this industry a little bit further. I want to do volumetric stuff. I want to do photogrammetry. So Michael introduced me to all good stuff, all good, equipment, engineering. This guys at Radiant they're just like genius on this field. And I brought Danilo in. Danilo gonna give you a little bit depth on what we've been doing, but we shot the film in Italy. Our executive producer was Enzo Sisti. He's the same guy from Passion of Christ, same executive producer of Passion of Christ, Wonder Woman, Ben-Hur, and many, many other films. And we brought so many production value for this field. And I think in a sense of, okay, we not only have the equipment to do it, but we have the production aligned, we have incredible artists, and I'm really, looking forward to show you all what is this about. Danilo gonna kind of give you let's say, a behind-the-scenes explanation.
I just asked to get some of your pictures up. So
Oh, okay.
You can explain a little bit how
Yeah.
massive the production was.
Okay, let's go. All right. Yes. So this was second day of shooting in Rome, Cinecittà, the house of Fellini and many other great guys. We used this temple, and one of the biggest challenges of filming in VR is, well, there's nowhere to hide. So it's not like, nobody cares about that door over there. It's not that well built. No, we care. So we fixed this temple that was used in Young Messiah many, many years ago, like 3 years ago. And then we fixed it again. And then to put the camera in different places, different, setups, it was incredibly difficult because every time we move the camera, we need to ask the actors, okay, do you remember what you did? Do you remember where you were? You need to do that same thing probably 30 more times today. So yeah, so we break down the scenes like this. So can we move to another one? Yeah, this was one of the most funny scenes to do. We shot with the KANDAO with 120 frames per second. There was a moment that the father of a ill son is running back to his house to find out that his son was healed by Jesus. And we put the camera in a very funny position. So it was very...
I think it's a little funny, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the preparation. We had Todd Bell as our cinematographer and Sebastian as our assistant. So the guys were amazing, great with all the equipment that we gave to them. Sebastian had a little bit of experience in KANDAO, but yeah, it was the first time for all of us. And yeah, this was a crazy shot that we have an idea to do it when Jesus walking on the water. So we went back to Cinecittà for one day of last day of shooting, and we create this boat. I'm not sure, Daniel, if this was a good idea, but anyway. We have all the, Jesus walking on the water in 3D, in green screen. It will be completely volumetric, and we still need help to do it. So if any one of you guys, as a Houdini artist, we're hiring. So that's it.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Can switch to my presentation. So that's kind of what happens when you get two crazy Brazilians together, right? Like I came here almost 11 years ago to work for Sony Pictures as an R&D engineer, mixing and promoting Sony Pictures movie and Sony PlayStation. So I always have been in between movies and games, and I'm still passionate about both. As you can see here, my team has 8 games across PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. We have also done 11 video streaming apps on the PlayStation platforms, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Vita. And we have, actually, I need to update the slide. We now have 5 virtual reality experiences across Oculus, HTC Vive, and one of the experience that I did I'm most proud of it was Buzz Aldrin cycling pathways to Mars. If we can start that video. It was really dealing with a lot of new technology, so I'll talk after the video.
Just gives a sense of participating, of being right there in an enlightened, involved, exciting way. That's the future that I want to see.
KANDAO has developed technology to capture holograms of real people, which can be displayed in virtual or augmented reality. And who better than Buzz Aldrin? Being able to experience Buzz's vision in virtual reality allows people to actually be on Mars and see Buzz's vision for how we're going to colonize Mars.
I think what's so exciting about this project in particular is that we're creating nearly photorealistic holograms of historical icons. People can interact with him as though he's there in a way that was never possible before.
Leaving an image behind for other people to see is like eternal life in a way. It gives a glimpse of me while I'm explaining what our future might be.
I want to be remembered for more than just kicking up moon dust.
I want my legacy to include a permanent human settlement on Mars.
So, thank you. Yeah, this project was like a massive production involving many different companies. Yeah. And the technology that we used in there was, of course, dealing with volumetric video. It was our first experience dealing with volumetric video. It was also our first experience dealing with photogrammetry. As you guys can see here, the Mars surface, it's actually, we couldn't send a photographer to Mars. But yeah, we actually sent a photographer to Morocco to scan the same surface where NASA trains the rovers, right? So we asked, like, hey, where most of the movies, like The Martian, where they shoot, how can we find here on Earth something that looks like Mars so we can digitize that environment? And that was one of the ways that we did. And next slide. Then I really got passionate about photogrammetry. You know, it's this way for you to scan objects and environments. And I started collaborating with Rodrigo on setting up at the Lute Studios a photogrammetry room where we start really figuring out what lens to use, what kind of illumination, how we can, you know, like scan things like pearls and deal with occlusions and really be able to start scanning objects at a super high resolution. And also how to, you know, start putting all of those objects together inside of a video. The next one, and one more, just because I want to save on time. And this is actually the scene of the movie where Jesus resurrects Lazarus. So you're watching the whole movie in 8K 3D, which is, believe me, like if you have a computer that can run 8K 3D, you will not want to watch it in 4K again. That being said, there's a lot of new video players that optimize for, you know, the field of view, and you can actually, we actually have a prototype, and there's actually a player on the Vive Focus called Visbit that you can watch 8K on a mobile device. And they also support the Gear VR. It's amazing. So that's why we're mastering everything in 8K 3D. And we also have the photogrammetry scenes. It's so detailed that you can actually see my footprints on the environment. And of course, we can clean all of that in post. But it's really like a nice way for you to, at the moment where Jesus is performing the miracles, that's when we go from the regular 3 DOF to 6 DOF in room scale. So that's when you actually will be able to feel like you are with Jesus while he is performing the miracle. So it's going to be a very mixed and interesting experience because, as I told Rodrigo, I would like to shoot the whole movie in volumetric video, but you know the budgets and the distribution and the file sizes are just. $100 million more. Yeah. But I think it's a really nice way to put the two together. So if we go to the next one, this is kind of like the behind the scenes on how that scene was scanned. We used laser scan, photogrammetry, you know, everything that you can imagine in terms of technology to actually be able to digitize that scene. We go to the next one. But another thing that I'm really passionate about is using photogrammetry to help on clean up 360 video effects. You can see here when we have a camera on top of a track like that, with Jesus here on the far right, you know, arriving in Jerusalem. It was actually shot in Matera, which is like 5 hours south from Rome in Italy, which is an amazing city. It's the city that really looks like Jerusalem from 2,000 years ago, because Jerusalem today doesn't look like that Jerusalem that we wanted to have on the movie. And if we go to the next scene, This is the 3D version, scanned version of that whole scene. We have a lot of challenges on the visual effects. Like we want to put like water on the Bethesda pool. This is the scene where Jesus cures the crippled man, and we basically decided to put KANDAO on a drone and use laser scans and do everything that you can imagine to be able to scan the whole mountain. Right here, we're just seeing a small piece, just because this is really running on Sketchfab on the web, right? This is a video recorded of the Sketchfab. That's why I wanted to really keep that so people can see this is just like a preview of the quality. We came back with like 16 terabytes of data that we are going through. But at least we got a server here at Radiant with 60 terabytes, so we're not worried about space. The next one. And here it really goes to the behind the scenes on how this was put together. On the left side, you can see per scene, we have about like 1,600 pictures. Each one of the images here on the right where you have this white cone, it's actually a photo that I took. And of course, this gets combined with the laser scan and also the drone footage. And we bring all of that inside Reality Capture, which is, to me, with Aegis-Soft, like the best softwares that you can use in order to create photogrammetry scenes. You can also see here the color bar and the scale. It's everything like precisely measured, and the colors should be like as accurate as possible. And because of that information that we have, when we need to clean up something on the floor, like the camera track, that becomes like an easy task. So if you go to the next one. This would be a scene that would be like kind of impossible to clean up. The track, you're just trying to use like a roto paint, like regular techniques, because as I said, like when you put two crazy Brazilians together, like, hey, I want to put the camera here on the stairs, and just like, okay, the photogrammetry really needs to work, right? Like, there will be no other way for us to clean it up. So I feel like we came back from Italy with an amazing source footage, and the movie is also coming together in an amazing way. It's kind of sad that we can't show a trailer or anything yet on how the movie's coming, but I hope that through the pictures and some of the images that you guys can see here, you guys can get a glimpse of what's coming. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. So I just want to say that we use the camera in many different ways, probably not the regular ways that we're supposed to use, but we use the camera also as a tool for photogrammetry, aerial photogrammetry. So put a camera on the drone and give us amazing photos, and through those photos we get the the point cloud photogrammetry, and that help us out to replace the background. As you could see at the clip that Danilo showed you, was overexposed the background, obviously, because of the most important part is the foreground.
Not as easy as I thought it would be, but yes, it's possible.
Yeah, not easy. Nothing is easy.
Post-production in VR is really challenging. I feel like photogrammetry comes as a tool to help you put the things together. So you don't have to try to figure out where the temple was supposed to be. You actually have a 3D point cloud of where that is. Computer should be just 10 times faster.
Something like that. So thank you very much.
The next panelist is Scott Connolly, Radiant number 8. Excellent, Radiant number 8. Scott and I have been collaborating on the most craziest projects. Every time I get a call from him, I'm usually shivering, like how we're gonna get this done. And we always talk to, like as the shoot gets to start, we always say to ourselves, I hope this shit works. Because Scott's always pushing the boundaries, and he's always doing things that are pushing our capabilities, whether it's in stereoscopic, whether it was in 2D when I used to work with him, and now in 360. And when 360 wasn't enough cameras, he went even further. Now he's working in much bigger capture systems as well.
I think I take the credit for the person who gave you your first virtual reality experience, actually.
Yes.
I think I came over here 2012. We came out, so we started in 3D. 2009, we started taking Dremels and putting together 3D rigs. And then we went through that whole thing, and then 2012 or 13, I think.
We went to Ty's place.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
He was our first victim.
Yeah, Beeble's World down there. We shot that skate film in 3D. I went and ended up doing a whole bunch of 3D TV shows and all that kind of stuff from the basement. And then after all that went through, I started exploring virtual reality, and I got my DK2, and I would carry around my drum. It was like a drum stand, and I brought it over to it was HD camera rentals at the time, right? And I sat Michael down and put the DK2 on him and said, "This is what's next."
And you showed us
the
Japan Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
3D.
Oh gosh. That's what I showed. And the coolest thing at the time, because there was no VR content out there, was that the stereo stuff that we did looked so much better in the headsets, right? Because you couldn't get that kind of experience except for in the theaters. And a lot of our stuff we hadn't, our stuff was branded or made for television and that kind of stuff. And so we started to continue to explore, and then we were like, okay, now we're going to start taping GoPros together, because we didn't even have 3D printers at the time.
And that's a testament for Scott. Most people that have vision, they see opportunity. They see through things. They don't see as they are. They don't see just as a headset, or they don't just see a bunch of GoPros. They see it as another capability. And Scott's always been like that. He's always been pushing boundaries and seeing through problems and exploring how we can go through other places.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. You play my reel?
Sure, let's play your reel.
So this is where we've gotten to now. I just did a whole bunch of, well, I'll show you what I did, and we'll show a couple things that I'll talk about, a couple of our latest projects. Come a long way.
But standing in water up to their knees, three very unimportant little people were doing the best they could with an idea, and that's about all they had. And I don't know, maybe that night these three people were making history.
So two of the biggest things we've done lately is we've got, I think we still hold the highest, the title for the highest resolution delivered in 360 video. We did 20K, it's the top of the Atlanta Stadium. Atlanta Falcons play, it's the Halo screen, Mercedes Stadium. Really cool 8K helium, 60 frames per second, cylindrical video. And then we also the last thing you saw there, we did the Elton John piece where he announced his farewell tour, and he did that we created a piece along with Synchrony, which was showcasing the last 25 years or something of his career. And so we took a 25-year-old body and we shot him against green screen and did facial replacement with motion control in 360 degrees. Really, really incredible stuff. It was fun. So some of the other stuff as we went moving forward, I have not had the opportunity to actually shoot a project on the KANDAO yet. So Michael went ahead and gave us a KANDAO last week. And so in between now, we started to explore the ideas of what we could actually do in modern day depth mapping.
Scott is a Chuck Yeager of cameras, by the way.
Yeah, we definitely use cameras like lenses, for sure. We just go from one to the other.
That's why the company's called Astronauts Guild.
So this is something we shot in my office against those big blown out windows back there, and we took the depth map, and then we went ahead and brought the background plate in. And then we were able to use this. Now I went ahead and left it really raw. Now you can see a little bit of that degradation in the depth map, right? And that's stuff that we can go through and we can clean up as we go a little farther in. But I wanted to see just what we could do right out of the box. And there's a couple of those little kind of bits and pieces that we would actually go through. You see a little flash there, those kinds of things. Now as the depth map gets better, we get a better algorithm a little more in time, we're going to be able to do this stuff much, much quicker. And then, let's see, let's look at the, why don't you go ahead and move on to the depth of field there, Julio? So the next thing we did here is we went ahead and we shot this gallery. This is actually, we just shot this Thursday night, put it on the rover, it's completely unstabilized. Now this is an 8-bit depth map, right? And you can see the reflections, some of the things that have problems. Really the things that have problems in depth maps are things that are black and shiny. So we've definitely got a lot of that in these pictures. Really cool event, actually, if you go to the Heritage Museum in Santa Monica. So this is the 8-bit depth map, and you see some of this banding. This is like what you would get out of the Odyssey, out of their system. And this is the 32-bit depth map. If you look at this picture right here, see how you've got that out of focus in that picture right away, in the corner there? If you go back and look at the 32-bit depth map, that is actually removed. It's much, much more accurate. And that's what we're able to get out of the XRs. Now out of the KANDAO, and so we're just moving leaps and bounds into being able to move through this stuff much better. And those were the basics that we looked at. What else? Do you have anything else over there, Julio? Oh, just the individuals.
That's great. Is there any more slides? So that's it?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Just gonna ask you a couple of quick questions. So, I love the way you made it very relatable. Like, technology by itself doesn't mean anything if you can't find a way to apply it and use it. Can you tell us what else is possible with depth mapping? What else can content creators do?
Well, I mean, we've spent a lot of time in the last year. That's the one thing I want to say. I've done a lot of work with depth maps over the last year, and not just with this camera, other cameras and other systems that are going to be coming out later. And the potential is really infinite. I mean, just these few basic things I really wanted to focus on today, like what we could do today with the technology as it is, which is awesome. But in the future, really digging deeper into the sixth DOF is really going to change, and I hope be the second kind of iteration of VR, because we're starting to see 360 video slow down, right? And that's the thing that's really kind of changing. Everybody's getting a little bit scared about this industry that we've all invested so much into. And to me, I think the really disappointing thing almost was when we started this entire process, when we were at HD Camera Rentals, like taping GoPros together. Actually, my business partner at the time, Ian Spohr, turned to me and he's like, well, you know that it's just gonna be, this 360 video thing for a while. And I was so upset. I was just like, this is not like anywhere near the potential of what virtual reality is, right? Like virtual reality is, as we use it and as we've seen it in game space or like climbing rock walls in these game spaces, is amazing technology, and it's taken us this long to get to the point now where these depths of fields are allowing us, these depth maps are allowing us to get closer to what the true virtual reality is. And then as we move on to volumetric space, it's going to be an amazing kind of experience, because just like you guys were looking at, I mean, I'm amazed at what you guys are doing with the photogrammetry, because that's the stuff I've dreamed of for years, of being able to, even to go back and see a movie or one of your favorite films, if you think about, like I always use The Departed as one of those examples that I always thought, I don't know why this particular scene always struck with me, as Leonardo DiCaprio sits at a bar, and you know, that you maybe in the future will be able to experience a story, and you could walk around the back of the bar and see something under the bar that foreshadows to something that's later in the story. Or there's just infinite bounds to storytelling, and it's almost back to this area of like choose your own adventure again, right? You could watch the same movie 10 times and get an entirely different story. What if we could watch it through the eyes of the POV of the bad guys and the good guys and the cops, right? So we're so close, and as we see the technology start to move forward and we push into the, you know, that light field wall back there, it's going to be a whole new world for creative storytelling.
I mean, it's interesting because just like cinema, it took a while for it to evolve. It wasn't something like 25 years after its invention, then we had our first feature film, and that was The Great Train Robbery, right? That was 25 years, and then Rodrigo always brings this analogy of Alice Guy, the female filmmaker that made the first cut. And that happened because we realized that we can actually not cut to a scene and open into another world. These are, same thing with virtual reality. It's an evolution. And there are a lot of people that say the technology dies and it morphs, just like they said about stereoscopic, but stereoscopic now found the right home, which is in VR.
It's so much better now.
Yeah,
the stereo is, we didn't realize at the time when you were doing stereo and making these films and everybody was, you know, capitalizing on 3D, thinking it was going to be their extra, you know, $7 per ticket and trying to do them as cheap as possible. Like, when we started VR, what was so exciting is we were like, all of a sudden that technology we spent all this time with that we thought went away, we started to go, okay, now we're just using all these tools that we learned in stereo and we're applying it to VR. And I think that's what's happening now as well, is with 360 video is transferring. Now all these things that we learned in 360 video is becoming virtual reality, true virtual reality storytelling. And you know, these camera systems are getting more and more accurate every day with allowing us to do that.
Thank you very much. Everyone, hands. Our next panelist is Hugh Ho. If you could just tell us a little bit about your...
Yeah, so I actually got to piggyback on Scott. I'm also a big believer of stereoscopic and depth map and all the stuff. Not like any of these guys. I have no budget. I'm a one-man band. I'm a YouTuber. I still live in my mom's basement. And I'm still experiencing like, I still on dub tape of GoPro and stuff, but just not GoPro, but RX20. So, but I actually make a recent reel with zero budget to basically summarize everything, the stereo, depth, mantra, and all those stuff. If you can play my slide. The second slide. Yeah, if you can play that YouTube video on the second one. Second page, yeah. And that is actually 360 stereoscopic video on YouTube. If you make it larger. Can you lower the volume just a little bit? Yeah, lower it all the way. So that's a drone shot. If you pan up, just pan the mouse up, tilt up.
Tilt up.
So you see actually there's an Inception style, like I'm using mantra to put a tiny planet into a stereoscopic environment. Something that you can do in my mom's basement with no budget. And this is actually a project I worked with the Kristen Bell Foundation, shot in Haiti. I was not in Haiti. I'm the post guy. As you see the camera, how much dynamic range you capture with the Obsidian. This is our Obsidian S with a lock 1 mode. Just really like bring that tropical color and weather into like real life. And this also with really minimal budget. can tune all the way up. And you can just hold it there. So that is another example, actually shot with the Obsidian camera. Thing that you can do immediately for your client is just like do a really good capture of the store, but instead of just using the traditional photo, you can actually create a video too. We can stay here. So this one I shot with MTV with the Obsidian S with 60 frames per second slow motion. Again, this is not slow motion, but this is behind the scene. But the thing you can do with slow motion, particularly stereoscopic, really create a different type of immersive. If you saw it in the goggle, which I have a version in goggle, you see it actually coming to your face and really see the impact of dancing. And also, look at the sun in the background, you can still see it, that beautiful California sunset. And I would not be able to do that. And this is another example, actually upside down, the Obsidian camera on a drone, on a counterweight, on a gimbal, fly by our very own drone operator in Radiant Images, Jordan, right here. I mean, I would not be able to do that if I using an eHalo, but because Obsidian camera is so light, I can actually attach it. Look at the camera, it's really smooth. It's no post-stabilization. It's like, again, I'm in my mom's basement, right? I don't have budget to stabilize this thing. So that is 100% out on the camera with an M600 DJI, with a gimbal, with a counterweight, and you look at the motion is super smooth, zero post-production. It's all raw from that camera right there. And the last one, actually one of the things that I think is very impressive that I haven't seen any camera do. If you see it in the goggle, this is an HDR time lapse. You can pan back up, look at the sun, look at the sunset. On your right, the other right, and pan out.
Thank you so
So
much.
look at, pay attention to the sun,
It's Hugh here
right there.
If you want
And
to
see the
learn
color
how to
change, see the
create
crowd.
immersive
You will
stereoscopic
not be able to
3D
capture
video
with
inside this
any
one. Subscribe to my
preview
channel.
rig. I mean, you can capture that with a helium, like what Scott did, with fancy equipment. But that is actually captured with the camera, just with DNG. A lot of post work. Again, this time I'm not in my mom's basement. I actually in YouTube space using their machine. That's just for example that the last scene, I tried to pitch my client for 2 years about my 360 production. His feedback to my content is that everything I shot looked like a GoPro. It is a GoPro, but it's a very expensive 64 GoPro called Odyssey. But still the image quality is GoPro-like. With that time lapse, I just showed to a client. I signed my first deal with him because that is how impressive that this technology right now can capture. If you have the budget, with your camera, with that lens, we can even do more crazy stuff, cinema DNG, all the stuff. So that video basically paint you the feature, you can have studio budget with this camera, with your talent, you can create amazing stuff. But with current technology right now, you can even with no budget, bring the camera out, you can also capture amazing stuff. Put it on YouTube, impress your friend, get your next job. Instead of staying in your mom's basement and duct-taping GoPro. So that's one thing that I'm really excited for.
Can you share us a little bit? Awesome job. Very impressive. Can you tell us a little bit more about depth mapping and how do you use it for effects?
Yeah, so I actually have my machine right here. If I can plug it in, I have something just released and nav. An Adobe engineer just sent me the first ever world's beta version in this laptop. I can literally do what Scott do, but instead of 1 week, I can do it in 3 minutes. Can I do a demo?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, boy,
I'm not going to call Scott anymore.
So I want to show you guys how technology moves right now. Good. Wow, everything is so tiny.
But we have big imaginations. That's fine.
I can even see on my screen. Okay, I'll let you. I let the engineer here do that. But you actually see the idea. So same idea. So from this camera, right now you can directly output something called RGB-Z map. What on the top bar is an RGB image with the monoscopic 360 video. On the bottom is the depth information of that footage. So that's what you get direct from the camera. I didn't do anything. But with the new feature, let me just cue this. So that's the footage, right? I can go to effect, drop in something called, let's use this, the depth mask on the footage. And then right now, look at the bottom part. I can key out footage based on depth information, provide directly from the map. So let's say that I want to give the tripod, I can just move the value. Or if you want to key out the entire bridge or myself, I can just do that. Without traditionally, you need to rotoscope and do all that post stuff. But right now with the secret weapon from Adobe, you can literally use this information and do CG work without going into After Effects. By the way, I'm on Premiere right here. It's not even After Effects. Other stuff that I can creatively use for the depth information, last thing that actually Scott already demoed that, I would just want to demo it again. It's a depth of field, which you are really familiar with as a traditional 2D videographer. You always want to using the depth information to draw viewer attention to the subject. So with depth information, I can also do the same thing. Let me just bump this up. Yeah, so make it full screen so you can see it. So again, right now this is in ultra beta, so basically Adobe reverted that map. So you see I'm kind of blurry right now, but the background is super sharp. But the same idea, right? So right now, first time ever as a 360 videographer, cinematographer, you can really like using post effect to draw viewer attention instead of letting them just roaming around, turning around, look at everything. You can use depth information to blur out the thing they don't want them to look at and really focus on the front ground. So yeah, so that is just the thing I want to show you guys. Yeah. But the thank you. What you did? Well, again, nothing compared to what Scott did. Because I literally just...
I just want to go to your mom's basement.
I do have a really cool basement in Venice.
I got to check it out.
So I just want to show you guys, like, there's a, in the whole 360 world right now, there's a big collaboration between like software provider like Adobe, Mythica, Mocha, and creator like Scott, from like all you guys, like Mantra, like everybody just collab together, try to move the industry in the next new level. Thanks to Michael provide this space for us to all experiencing, make mistake, so we can learn from our mistake. I think that is really, really cool.
Absolutely. Thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go, I forgot to show Tarek's piece. Can you cue it up? Because we have to see it. That's one of my favorite pieces. Yeah, I know a lot of would love to see it too.
Is it like the actual VR piece itself?
I'm not sure what we have, but I
I
know.
I sent you guys like a BTS, like a 2D BTS
Yeah.
yesterday, but if not,
So this
then
one was a
just go into
true
Vimeo,
run and
it's
gun
fine.
shoot because we got the call like.
Vimeo.
So this project came in, fell on laps like truly on that same day, and Tarek packed up the camera, took it to Peru with our friend Lauder, and they shot this piece. But here's a trailer from it.
Oh, this is the actual piece, I think.
It is?
Yeah.
You don't know what the ride's going to be.
But it's fine.
There's things that you can look at and you see the wave and you go, oh yeah, this has got all the characteristics of being a great wave. But the fact is that you don't really know until you
Pan
catch
around
it.
if you want, but I mean.
It's like life. I came to Peru specifically for the longest waves in the world.
So yeah, you can see if you scan to the left, see the point in the right, it goes all the way
My first
in.
trip to Chicama was just a few weeks ago, and well, I had such an amazing experience here, so I came back to see if what I experienced and what I saw.
But yeah, I mean, you can see here a lot of the drone footage that we did here. And looking at it in goggles, it is stereo as well. But you're getting really smooth movements thanks to that high frame rate, and we're able to kind of get this. This wasn't shot with KANDAO, as you can see, but you're getting a lot of depth. You're able to get up there. We're pulling. I mean, I don't know how high we were, louder, but you're able to see. I mean, detail at distance, and we were able to, put you on a surfboard with Laird Hamilton here. But more importantly is kind of being able to utilize the camera and these technologies to kind of tell this story, and give you this experience in a place that, I don't know, it's really unpredictable, really hard to shoot. Looks like you're on the surface of Tatooine, but also like, surfing the best waves in the world.
The camera has built-in stabilization, right?
Yeah, but when you're moving around that much, I mean, super high winds, shooting at that high frame rate, and then being able to stabilize in post is kind of where we got the really smooth shots with it.
So mostly shooting high frame rate.
Yeah. I mean, you have to when you're in, like, I don't know how fast the winds were, but I mean, it was really windy.
And have you used the Obsidian and any other projects that you can talk about?
Yeah, like I said before, we our team's taken it all over the world since. I think we've used both the S and the R since.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's become definitely a staple in our wheelhouse of toys.
Great. Well, thank you again.
Yeah.
And I want to thank all the panelists, and I want to thank you guys for coming out here. And thank you. We'll have some Q&As. We're going to have pizza delivered soon as well. But really want to thank them because they didn't wait for a business model to be developed. They didn't wait for the audiences. They were the pioneers that went out in the gold mine and dug whatever they needed to. And I think there's a lot of us in this room that celebrate that. We're not waiting for things to happen. We're not waiting for industry to open up for us. We're breaking those doors down, plowing and making it happen. And around us, throughout history, they've hated people like us. They have. They've thrown stones at us. They hate new ideas. They push it down because it challenges their comfort. And it's filmmakers like here that are constantly challenging what we feel comfortable with. And I think there's a lot of us in this room, and I think everyone, we should celebrate each other and push all of our capabilities. And I'm so proud to spend a Saturday with you guys, and hope we have an opportunity to do it more again. So if you guys have any Q&As, I would love to ask. Okay, there we go. Hey, Yuri.
I just want to say thanks for say that these guys are amazing. In 2011 or 12, we came to them at HD Rentals, and we were doing a 3D movie at Burning Man. And a bunch of big companies had gone to Burning Man and said, hey, you can't do it, because there's no margin. We were like, screw it. So we came to Michael, and Michael and his brother Bobby came with us to Burning Man, and I came back. He gave me the first Pro 3D camera that was sort of modeled after the HVRs or whatever, and I brought it back from Burning Man. I was the closest person to the man burning with this camera, and I brought it back, and it was like covered in dust. It was totally messed up. Yeah, and he looked at it and he went, oh my God, that's the first one. And I said, well, I had to shoot the thing. And he smiled and he went, Yuri, it'll be okay. And we worked it out, and I've worked with them ever since. Love these guys, they're amazing. So my question is, stereo technology is such a huge part of the history of photography, and it's what people use to find out about other places way back in the day. And if you go to photography, historical places, and you look at the stereography, you really do get a sense. I mean, it uses your true parallax, your true depth of focus in your eyes to help you experience other things. So how do you feel that original technology guides you when you know, your own feelings guide you when you make work?
So we are doing the post-production in 3D, and it's really challenging, I have to say. I think just regular 3D in a flat has some challenges, and we try to do that in 360. We really have to focus on what's the attention for the user, because like in some of the things that we had, like in Matera, there are many places where you can look at. And what we noticed that if you leave 3D all around, sometimes your eyes need some time to adjust on where to look at, because it's always like, you know, perception of depth. So it's kind of like challenging. So sometimes we actually go and paint something in 2D just so we know for sure, hey, this is the focus, this is what I want the users to look at. It is extremely challenging. And also, I love the Elton John piece, so I'd like to hear the challenge. In 3D, of course. Yes, yeah. I waited to download and watch it, and I watched it on the Vive Pro, so yeah.
Very cool. Wow. As a former stereographer, or a current stereographer, this is like, I got to tell you, this question is the question and the reason that we started the Astronauts Guild in what it was like late 2009, early 2010. The problem with 3D and stereo was that at that time, we were making films, and there was nobody that could be insured really by the studios, except for people that were mostly hobbyists at that time. So we'd end up on sets, a lot of situations where we had hobbyists creating getting frustrated by filmmakers, and the constant thing that we saw was people saying no. And you can't tell creators no, right? Like that's the whole entire idea is we want to figure out how to make the technology work, you know? And so we started to focus on the idea of taking a very difficult situation and finding other creative ways to make it work. And so I think that's in all these scenarios, all these kind of things we run up against is like going, okay, maybe it doesn't work the way you want to do it, but let's figure out another way to do it. I actually had me and Michael. Wait, hold on. We were sitting in Japan, 4 o'clock in the morning, been filming for 22 hours at this point, and the director turned to me and he goes, "What if I just told you I don't care about the 3D?" And we're like, okay, well, I understand, but it's a 3D commercial. It's for Coke. Like, you know, they wanted it in 3D. They wanted to deal with the technology. They wanted to deal with the thing that put it out there. Let's go and figure out another way to do it, you know. And I think that's the push across all these things, right?
Well, that's exactly the testament. Maybe the technology hasn't caught up to people's imagination, you know, and that's what we have to always figure out. Like, how do we reach their imagination?
And one thing I'd like to add is that if you really want the perfection in the whole environment around you, that's when the photogrammetry, the light field, and that's where you really can achieve the precision. Because right now I think the main challenge is stitching, right? Stitching when you're getting from one camera to the other, you do optical flow or you do fade and you mix here and there, and that's when you put like a 3D version of the scene exactly on top of each other and you're seeing the stitching there and just like, okay, how do I deal with that? I think until we can actually put the whole movie in a volumetric environment or light field, we will have to make some compromises here and there. But I feel like it's you still know where you want to go as a director guiding, hey Danilo, this is the focus of the scene, and we can definitely achieve like an amazing quality today.
Yeah, before my film, I was a 3D virgin. I never believed in 3D because I am one of those 6% of the people that can't see 3D on screen. So every time, like early 2013, 12, people show me like, oh, this is a 360 3D film. And I put the goggles and said, I can see shit. So for me it's like nothing. And I finally convinced my kids to not drag me to their theaters with a 3D animation anymore because it caused me like headache and everything. But then there's a difference between the 3D that you see on the screen and when you experience 3D like a full volumetric environment. This is like, okay, now I'm in and now I can walk in. So, and I didn't want to get this bad translation between 2D film into a completely full volumetric environment. So I talked with Danilo many times and Michael, and we figured out, okay, the right technology. We probably brought 7 different systems for 9. All right, different systems for the set. So we have KANDAO, we have everything, and because I have this commitment, like, okay, 3D is gonna drive us, and finally we're gonna put us on a volumetric environment. And like Danilo said, photogrammetry help us out to finally understand, okay, it's here when the story we're gonna be developed. So definitely now I would say, yeah, I was baptized in 3D. So I will never go back to 2D anymore, but it took a while.
At the last point, you had the experiencing this in a gargle of 6 dog to really experience like what 3D, what everybody talk about, how impactful it is. You cannot just watch 3D in a flat screen. And I also want to just confuse the hell out of you even more. There's 2 types of 3D. There's one have a conversion point. That's what KANDAO do. In the distance, it's no 3D. The close-up has 3D. And the different type of camera, which Samsung Round and Vooz have a convergent 3D. What it means is in the distance, they actually have 3D again, but flip it upside down. And your eyes is actually really forgivable. When you put a goggle on, if you can see 3D, your eyes actually help you to see 3D. But doesn't mean everything you create gonna look good for your viewer. So just to put it out there, when you're choosing a 2D solution, you also need to consider that. Currently, one on Adobe, they cannot handle the type 2 3D, which have the conversion point, which is not this 3D, but different type 3D. And so when you're using do a post-production, you will realize that using the Adobe tool, you can never push the object all the way to the distance. You never look right in your eyes because your brain will just trick you, say that is not in the distance. So yeah, I'm not hopeful that answer your question, but basically make you even more confused. But but their technology is growing, so there's just a way you can use 2D to impact people. So.
Next question.
I'm sorry, this is not really a question, but you keep saying monetization. And I wanted to point out what we've forgotten after a couple 100 years of corporate thinking. Everybody wants to be compensated for what they're doing, but money is not the only reward. That is the smallest reward we have, because we have a whole life, and the fact that you can do something that changes the world around you, and that's a world you're in, is a much bigger compensation. So don't allow ourselves to be enslaved by thinking into only one small parameter. If you do something to benefit yourself, there is always a possibility it might benefit someone else. But if you do something to benefit the entire world, not the majority, but everybody, guess what? You got rewarded because you're part of it. And so freeing ourselves from just thinking about creating a single reality, but now creating multiple images and everything in this thing. This is what I'd like to see in a world, in a theater where the light reflects off the screen and I'm totally immersed without having to move my head, punch buttons. I can just totally get lost and become part of the Zen, and it envelops me. That's what I would look for as a compensation. But I'd be curious, what compensation do you want from your work?
I don't make money, so I should not answer that.
I know, you knew the perfect person to answer that.
I cannot answer that.
Mom's basement.
That's the true answer.
I mean, I can answer one thing. I mean, I think the entire panel here hasn't waited for that. They've been pushing what they're passionate about. And if they had to wait for monetization, it would never happen. No, that's the whole way, yeah.
It was built on the idea
Yeah.
of respecting builders over buyers, because a builder can always build it, and a buyer can never build his own house. We can flip-flop it, so we're pushing.
You know who got it? Those kids. They didn't care about monetization. They understood innovation. They understood deep questioning. And I think everyone on our panel is the same way.
I don't know, for me, it's at the end of every one of my emails that's stuck with me for 15 years now. It says, the biggest mistake most people make in life is not trying to make a living doing what they most enjoy. And I think that's just the bottom line for all these things. Is, yeah, I don't think that any of us up here have waited. You know, there's kind of an ability, like, none of us are trying to go out and get rich. We're all just trying to be creators, and we're trying to help out other creatives to do things we love, and that's the payback, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's like I'm always pursuing some sort of a inside happiness. It's just because I'm never happy with anything. So I looked at technology, I looked at softwares, I look, oh, this is great. And I look and said, oh my God, this is so bad. Yeah. And for me, I think it's selfish, but I'm looking for a self space where I feel happy, you know. So that's right now I'm kind of, so I'm, you know, almost there. So when we finish the film, I'll feel this space. Okay, now I'm happy. What's the next one, right? So I'm not looking for any kind of a reward. Obviously, money is good, but we're not making money out of this. So it's all about the vision, helping friends, bringing friends to suffer with us. Because as some of my Brazilian friends tell me many times, if this is not something that I would never gonna go, don't ask me to go. But so every time I call them, like, listen, I have this project, and I need to ask myself, I don't want to go to this project, so let's go. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, I've been through a lot of different, you know, like reorganizations from big companies to small companies, and I think the only challenge is that we do need to pay rent and pay the employees. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have to go through. But
you
that
can
being
live in the
said,
basement. That's another thing to do.
yeah, but that being said, I think, you know, the reward is what I put it on the screen. You know, is the amount of projects, and for every little project, you know, there's so many things that every time I see it, you know, like it gives me that reward. So. Yeah, I don't think anyone here is actually making a lot of money yet, and we're always just really trying to grow the industry and going through those challenges. It is tough. It's not an easy task. But that being said, I think when you start seeing the beginning of a new industry and you see that we have been able to achieve things that no one has done it, and you know, it's really a matter of how long it's going to take for the cost of those devices to go down, the quality to get a little bit better in terms of display. And if you guys have seen some of the new devices that are coming out now, it's really a matter of hopefully, like in maybe a year or two, the price is going to be down and the quality is going to go up, and everybody's going to be, where's the content? So that's why we're building it.
It's a trick holding on to the audience long enough for the technology to get to where it's supposed to be. I mean, that's exactly why, Michael, I agree with you. We should be looking at the 5 and 10-year-olds and asking what they want, because it's going to take us 20 years to get the technology there, and that's when they're just old enough to start buying it. But we keep listening to 20-year-olds instead, and then, you know, by the time they're 60 before we get them what they want.
But I think real filmmakers don't ask questions, what do you want to see? Real filmmakers, they tell their story, and they don't care if one person watches it or billions of people watch it, but they tell their stories, and they don't ask, what do you like me to paint for you? What colors do you like on the canvas? They create their own art, and everyone here is that kind of a believer. They create art. Thank you. And I know there's one person that puts up all his own money in distribution, capture, post-production, feeding people, and makes time to teach the younger generation. I've been part of that. He's inspired me, inspired Scott. We go and anytime there's new opportunity, the first person we call is Ty. he's the one that's actually out there, a true filmmaker.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone says, and I don't know, that's a big can of worms to open up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with everyone. I think my one thing I always say is like I compare what we do, what we all do. It's the same as like early man putting his hand on a cave wall and spitting blood over it and then leaving the mark of your handprint there.